afternoon. Friends, I say this with all the love and generosity of my heart. I don't mean to admonish you, but that good afternoon is not our best. I'm not going to ask you to repeat it as I have in the past, but that is a very important thing that we say to each other in this space. Good afternoon. I've said it before and I'll say it again. And I forgive you for forgetting this time how important it is and how important greetings are in this space. It's okay. But now I really do need you to listen to me. I need you to lean in. I need you to put your cell phone away. Because I'm not here sharing empty musings with useless intellectual jargon. I'm a human being, just like you. And we are here to talk about the most important things in our lives. So please, if you have something in your hand, go ahead and set it aside. If you have something on your mind, go ahead and set it aside as well. Whatever you're holding, physically or emotionally, it'll be there when we're done. Just sit for a second. Take a minute to be with me. Do your best to forget about what is troubling you briefly. It will still be there when we're done talking. The future will come, but worrying about it in this moment won't help. You might get distracted and you might miss something. I'm speaking to you with the urgency of a person that cares for you and expects your attention. We are friends. What would it take for me to get your undivided attention? Are you physically comfortable right now? Do you need to wiggle around? Are you someone that prefers to listen while standing or pacing? Do you need to readjust? Are you hungry? There's a restroom in the back. Don't let the empty rituals of decorum interrupt your listening, not in this space, because this is an important conversation we have every week. I am a person standing here with my own flaws, my own difficulties, that's true, with a sincere love for you. I'm speaking to you to share now what I've heard, what I've read, what I've lived. Please do me the honor of listening. You might learn something, or worse, you might feel something. You see, it's no small thing to stand in front of a community and offer guidance and support. And those of you who know me and have walked with me know that I take that work very seriously. This work of seeing one another, of hearing one another, those are the tools of love. We look and we listen. We share, but we look and we listen. We are seen and we are heard. I am not any more loving than you are. I am no smarter than you are sitting before me here, or those of you watching from the internet. I am certainly not stronger, and I'm definitely not more chosen. I'm just like you. I'm just a person. And I would be heartbroken if I found out you weren't listening. This is no small message, and this is no small moment. We gather here every week on purpose. Because, friends, the time is now. It is here. This is our chance. There is no time to waste. You don't need me to tell you that as we speak, the clouds of violence are building all over the world. All around us, the world, all around us in the world, forces of war are gathering and consolidating. Even here in our very fragile city, the peace that binds us together and keeps New Yorkers going and trusting and confident feels tenuous, stretched thin by our anxieties. Tell me if you feel it. Tell me if you've seen it. Here and everywhere, fear holds power over our communities, over our cities, over our nations, over our very hearts. There is no time to waste. I'm not sure if you've seen the news lately, but the world has become a scary place to be in. And in scary places, when scary things happen, it is good and right to be afraid. But the story can't end there. Every moment we spend motivated by fear, guided away from trust and courage, is another moment spent wasting our time alone. For there is no camaraderie in fear, no trust in cowardice, no truth in anxiety and worry. Anxiety and worry are fantasies, imaginary friends born of an overeager imagination, attempting to know the future. And the future is not ours to know, just now, just this moment. All we have is now, and all we have is each other. Look around you. Look at how many friends you have. Maybe you didn't know you had this many friends. Even if you're joining from home, alone in your living room or apartments, even if you're alone in a big empty house, I can be here with you by the miracle of technology. If you're lucky to be here physically in this space, in this moment, you have evidence that you are not alone. You have not been ignored. You have lots of friends. But maybe trust is not easy for you to come by. I know for me it's not. Maybe you've been hurt by friends in the past, or even recently by someone you trusted. Maybe now loneliness feels safe. Maybe it feels too hard to look around and see someone else. Maybe you are still suffering from an experience of rejection or humiliation. I know I have. And maybe you feel certain there is no love in this world that you truly deserve. Maybe you're here now remembering only the love that you yourself have lost, the happiness and connection that was once yours, but you can't find it anymore. I honor the grief we all must endure simply to live, for living is losing. Loss is part of how we live. It is a powerful motivator for fear. Remember, fear can be good common sense. There is plenty for us to fear in the world, but fear is not true. Right now, all we have is this moment, and all we have is each other. Friends, nobody is hurting you now. We are all loving each other. Take a breath. Sit with me. Don't waste another moment thinking thoughts of sadness or emptiness right now until you hear that the most important thing we will do today is speak honestly with each other about what it means to be a person, what it means to be afraid, what it means to lose, what it means to hurt, what it means to feel alone. Those feelings are real. We have all felt them, and we may feel them now just to speak about them. And yet it is also true that a person is not truly alone. If you're sitting down, it's likely in a pew or a chair, a piece of furniture built by someone else. They're loving you from the past. If you stand, you likely stand upon the soles of shoes that you didn't construct yourself. Someone loved you enough to make you shoes. If you're listening to me through the miracle of technology, there's not a one of you among us capable of producing that device that brings my face and my voice to you through time and through space without help. Maybe you remember a time when a friend helped you, and maybe you remember a time when an imaginary friend helped you. Maybe you remember when the presence of a person was truly comforting. Maybe you remember also when the imaginary presence of a person was truly comforting. Now, what I'm saying to you, friends, is that all around us are forces that try to keep us apart, and in this moment, by our collective strength and intention, we have come together. Even if we are not truly together, we come together. We join each other so that we might see each other, so that we might hear each other, and so that we might feel seen and heard in return. Bless you. We can be present to all that we are and all that we have been, and no one is trying to hurt us. Not right now, not here. So let's breathe. The world is scary. The world is lonely. But right now, we are here to take and hold each and every one of us. We are here to take advantage of the opportunity we have in this moment to just be together. Now, perhaps this isn't news to you. Perhaps it doesn't sound all that insightful for me to say that we are together because it's kind of obvious. Maybe it feels like you've heard all of my musings before. Maybe you're listening to me thinking, there's nothing new in his words. There's no help in his effort, no foundation to his emotional outbursts. And you might be correct. I'm not here pretending that what I'm saying is new or original. I am not a brilliant orator, and I didn't come up with all of this. I am connecting it to very old ideas. And it is likely you have heard all of this before, and you'll probably hear it again. Many others who are stronger and smarter than me have said these sorts of messages with more wisdom and clarity than I have, and I can only admire them and emulate their work. But don't think for one moment that the reason you've heard all of this before is because you've seen it all. Don't think that you've heard everything there is to hear or that you have experienced all that this world has to share. Don't think that you have collected all the knowledge and wisdom there is in this world to be found. And I imagine if you do think that in your heart, the innermost part of yourself, you must know that you truly have not collected all of the knowledge and wisdom there is to be found. You must know none of us has experienced all that this world has to offer. None of us can know with true knowledge every event that has transpired in this world. None of us knows everything. None of us can be everything. We are just people. We're all living this life one moment at a time. All we have is now, and all we have is each other. To leave behind these worries and fears is not folly, it's not ignorance. Accepting interconnectedness and reaching out to one another in trust is not naive. It's not foolhardy to try and love each other. This is a recognition instead of our true place in the world, and that place is here, now, surrounded by one another. It is not foolishness to admit we can't know the future. It is wisdom to admit we can't know the future. It's not foolish to admit we can't live our lives alone. That is wisdom. Today is an auspicious day to be talking of wisdom because it is the feast day of St. Patrick. St. Patrick, if you don't know, is a guide and sage from Catholic tradition whose life continues to inspire lives of urgency and presence across the world. His legacy is complicated. And what a strange life he led. We read a little bit about that from his autobiography. His autobiography is the most reliable account of the life of St. Patrick, and in it we hear incredible miracles. We heard one miracle about saving the lives of starving men. St. Patrick is believed by many to have raised more than 30 people from the dead, and that doesn't include the horses or the children. I don't have time to recount all of the miraculous events from his life now, and these fantastic stories of miracles don't always land well to modern ears anyway. The boundaries of what is possible for us is a little bit smaller than it was for the ancients. We tend to believe in what we can see. We tend to believe the tradition of empirical evidence called science, and we mistrust with good reason strange fantasies and strange stories that defy what we believe about the world. Doubt and skepticism are themselves forms of wisdom. They teach us to discern truth rather than accepting what we hear at face value. But doubt and skepticism can also be misleading. They can be intoxicating assurances of our own self-sufficiency, of our own strength of mind. Our doubt and skepticism can make us believe that we alone know the truth, that we understand all there is to understand in the world, and that by the strength of our good sense, we alone know what is true. We can't fully leave behind our doubt and skepticism, but neither can we trust it as a guide with our whole heart. And I think if St. Patrick were here with us today, he would agree and insist on all that we do not know in the world. I think he would talk to us about his own inadequacies, his own lack of education, his own illiteracy. He would talk about his stumblings and his feelings. He would talk about his mistakes and missed opportunities. I think he would talk to us about the things that he saw that he did not understand, the things that he felt were beyond his knowledge, and the times that his imaginary friend, Jesus, spoke to him from another world. I think he would talk to us about the love he felt by talking to that imaginary friend, Jesus, and the strength that these conversations brought him through his time in captivity. I think he would say to us, "Do not think for a moment you have experienced all this world has to share, that you have collected all the knowledge and wisdom there is to be found." Now, I can imagine him saying these things, but I also know that St. Patrick is not physically here with us today, not really. I am not St. Patrick, and I have not lived a life like his, but I do know something about loss, and I do know something about wandering. I do know something about leaving and returning, and I know something about stepping out onto a new path with nothing. It is only in the losing that we can be reminded of what we have. And if you remember from before, what do we have but now and each other? My grandmother's house growing up was a big house. It was enclosed by a concrete wall with a big iron gate. It was surrounded by shrubs and trees. And in my childhood imagination, it was, in a magical way, eternal. It had always been there. I assumed it would always be there. I was an adult, and I had been living here in New York for more than 10 years when my grandmother sold her house. It was not my house. I never lived there, not really, but my grandmother had lived there since before I was born. It was the house we gathered in for holidays. It was the house I met my cousins in. It was where my mother's childhood bedroom still held her bed, her sheets, her dolls. When my grandmother sold that house, nobody asked me. Why should they? It was not my house. I had never lived there, and I had been living here in New York City for over a decade. But I still felt a sting of loss. It was like a family member had died. The house lived in me. And though I never called that house my home, I had a life there. I had stories there. Only I and those four walls, and possibly my imaginary friend Tristan, knew those stories. It wasn't my home, but I felt I had lost a home. I felt like I was suddenly stranded, wandering without a tether. I felt like I had lost my center. I felt my steps wobbled. I thought I had lost direction. That house, like everything else in this world, eventually moved on. And eventually all of us and everything we know will also move on. From this place, from this world. Our memories and our imagination are all we have to keep us connected to the things in the world that pass on, and this feeling of wandering without a tether can be disorienting without them. But to the pilgrim, this is the beginning of freedom. To the pilgrim, this moment is the beginning. We fill these memories and imaginings with our hope for the future. These memories, real or created, live in us in every moment, not just here and not just now. Those memories, those imaginings, they don't move on to the next world. They linger, and they can be for us a comfort. They can also be for us a burden. When I began this message, friends, I asked you to put aside your worries, to put aside your fears, and listen to me. I asked for your attention. Now, I invite you to consider what it was that you put away. What did you set aside? Were they worries, fears, friends? What have we lost? What do we carry? Who has gone on before you that lives only in memory, only in imagination? Friends, we are all in this together. This moment will not last forever. But here, now, in this moment, it is the truest thing I may have ever said when I say we have each other. This is the way of the pilgrim, that we do not sit in one place and we do not linger in the places and people that leave or fall or move on. They linger with us. We do not linger in fear or worry, looking for an escape into the future. We linger in the moment, together with others. The pilgrim is tossed and turned by weather. The pilgrim wanders sometimes without direction. Sometimes the pilgrim moves swiftly with conviction and certainty. But the pilgrim moves. The pilgrim keeps going. The pilgrim is motivated by an understanding not that the future holds any specific particular promise, but that this moment, this very moment, promises a future. Miracles are happening right now, inside and outside of us. Whether they are contrary to the laws of nature or not, they are miraculous. The pilgrim talks to imaginary friends, not to escape the pain of the world, because the truth of loss is real and heavy. It must be shared. The pilgrim knows that in our loneliness, it seems that we walk alone, that we are always constantly guided and supported by the imaginary musings of our friends, by the spirit and memories of those who have gone before us. The pilgrim knows that though we are each of us only one person, we each contain multitudes, stories, memories, people, guides, imaginary or otherwise, that carry us through. And most of all, the pilgrim knows that not every friend is imaginary. Some people truly sit around us. Not every person whom we have loved or who loves us is elsewhere. The pilgrim knows that the past and future live in us, but friends live outside us. And outside of us, in that special place of connection and sharing, we can experience moments filled with wonder and beauty. Even in the midst of our sadness and suffering, not all of our friends are imaginary. Sometimes they are the very real people sitting around us, sharing the same moment, thinking the same thoughts. See them. See those around you. See them as the pilgrims we all are, travelers that we try not to be but become eventually. Friends, this is the way of the pilgrim, to be guided by our past, not consumed by it. This is the way of the pilgrim, to be curious about the future, not obsessed with it. Because if we spend too much time in the past or the future, we miss the present moment. The miracles around us could be imaginary, they could be transcendent, or they could be mundane. They could be the person sitting next to us who loves us and we didn't even know it. The miracle could be somebody trying to get your attention, saying, "Good afternoon," who sees you, who calls you out, and tells you you are beautiful. And if you didn't hear it yet, you're beautiful. The way of the pilgrim is to stop for a moment. Put down your stuff. Look at the people around you. Truly look at them. Listen with your whole heart. Share the weird parts of yourself with reckless abandon, because we're all in this together. Amen.